1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la.
Good morning, guys.
Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la.
Hey, I'm James Hake of the Hake Report, and it is Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific time, fourth hour of the Jesse Lee Peterson show stream. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Jesse. August 9th, 2019. Live every day in the fourth hour of the Jesse Lee Peterson show, including YouTube, Periscope, DLive, Mixer.com/JLP Talk, and maybe something else. So thank you guys for joining. Shout out everybody. And podcast goes up. My podcast goes up on thehakereport.com. Jesse's live audio stream is on jlptalk.com. You can find it that way. And you can also find his podcasts that way for his 3 hours. My fourth hour is on thehakereport.com. So people are being driven nuts. Absolutely nuts. And then I will get to your calls. You can call in 888-775-3773. But I just saw some Drudge headlines that I did not read yet today. Read out loud to you guys. And I didn't flesh them out. I didn't get the details on them. But I just wanted to point them out. Drudge reports. I have some headlines for you in the folder. A gun nut films himself walking into a Walmart with an assault weapon. Show the Drudge one. And 100 rounds. You can see the man, I don't know, does he have like a long selfie stick or is that a different picture? But anyways, 100 rounds assault weapon. You can tell like it was written by a liberal, but he's carrying a big, a gun. An off-duty firefighter, I think he's retired maybe, stopped him, held him at gunpoint. Store manager had pulled the alarm and told people to head out. He was filming himself walking around with a shopping cart, as I read. I didn't read too deeply into it, but it sounded like he was, I don't know, trying to open carry or something. Do what he had a right to do. This was in Springfield, Missouri. And in a separate incident, a man asked a clerk for anything that would kill 200 people. That was a quote. And I think that was a liberal nutcase. Officers found that man, and he told them he was trying to make a political point. So probably a liberal. Trying to make the point that you can buy something that will kill 200 people at Walmart. The world is so insane, and it drives people to do even more insane things. I mean, they're already insane, right? But you're driven even more insane when you're insane already with anger. So stay cool, everybody. And then I promised yesterday that I would talk about actual nutcases. Well, those two maybe. I don't know. But the ex-girlfriend of the shooter up in Dayton, Ohio, we haven't really gotten a whole lot of details about his motive because he did not obviously leave a manifesto as the El Paso alleged shooter allegedly did. We don't know if it's real or not. I guess it was real. I don't know. But according to Heavy, Adelia Johnson is Connor Betts' ex-girlfriend, and you saw photos of her shared by our evil new producer, well, Jesse's evil new producer, trying to trick us into thinking that transgenders are real women and real women are transgenders. So evil. But he's pointing out the evil, right? But it's traumatizing us. Too early in the morning, makes me want to throw up. But this woman wrote a blog post. This woman, Adelia Johnson, white woman, short-haired girl. I say girl, but she was a young woman, right? Early 20s probably. Wrote a blog post in the far-left platform Medium.com, which Jesse Lee Peterson and Mike Cernovich were kicked off of. So that tells you a little bit about Medium, radicals. And her blog post is titled, "My ex-boyfriend was the Dayton shooter. This is not an excuse for Connor Betts. This is just the Connor I knew." And she is a liberal. But she admits to being mentally ill too. She says, I have some like excerpts of the more text. She said, she met him in January 2019, just this year, right? And she was already became girlfriends with him. She says, we were very open about our mental illnesses. He had bipolar disorder and possibly OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. And these people like brag about it at this point. Joking about, because they want to take away the stigma, right? Joking about personal mental illnesses is one of the biggest coping tools in the mental health tool belt, so she says. So when he started joking about his dark thoughts, I understood. This is her writing. Dark thoughts for someone with a mental illness are just a symptom that we have to learn how to manage. Joking about wanting to hurt people was just heard as, I have uncomfortable thoughts that are inappropriate to express, but I need to joke about them. Otherwise, they're too scary and real. That's her explaining. People who do not have a mental illness do not understand this sense of humor. He trusted me with so much of his darkness that I forgot most of it. So she said. Connor and I kept our relationship on the down low due to the polyamorous nature of it. This is like a Huffington Post woman. I say Huffington Post because they promote polyamory and all kinds of sexual madness. I was engaged to another man, she says, while dating Connor, and all parties involved knew about the situation. Everything was consensual, even if it was a bit of an adjustment. That's so white liberal or corrupt, educated people. So Huffington Post, as I say. They went to a bar and she said, we ended up getting into a political debate with a Republican. Connor really knew his stuff, and he was impressed when I knew mine. These mentally ill people, she admits to being mentally ill, and he does too. What are they doing talking about politics? I don't know if... I want to say mentally ill people shouldn't vote. A couple of drinks later, Connor asked me if I saw the video of the synagogue shooting, and I'm presumably that's the Poway, California one, I guess. So he showed it to her, and she was too drunk to say I didn't want to watch it. And then she said, by the end of the night, and this is very ladylike, right? Not to be too judgmental, right? But she's all, by the end of the night, I was trashed from accidentally drinking too much from anxiety. These people are so messed up. He seemed way soberer than I was, so she let him drive her home. And so later on, it turns real nasty, and she says, this woman Johnson, Adelia Johnson, says that she broke up with Connor Betts, the Dayton killer, alleged, via text, because he became too aggressive. And then she texted his mom too and said, hey, watch out for him. I still care about him. Just make sure he's okay. And then the mother texted back, oh yeah, he told me and he's upset. No, these are not millennials. These are Gen Zs. These are Zoomers. But same problems, right? That's just some background into like a real couple of nutcases. And as I recall, this El Paso shooter was no better. If I remember right, I thought I saw, and I don't know if I mentioned this yet, I think I did, in the El Paso killer, the white, the so-called white whatever he was, the one who was concerned about mass immigration and environmentalism, he had a LinkedIn page. You can check me on this because I'm not positive, but I did see something along these lines. He had a LinkedIn page that said, and you have a LinkedIn page as kind of a resume, right? To promote like maybe your work. But he said that he hated work. He said he didn't like work. Talk about a dummy. Why would you put a LinkedIn page and say you hate work? It was something along those lines. I could swear that I saw it. We can look it up later. Anyways, let me get to some calls. And then I want to talk a little bit, if I have a chance, about the Men's History Month Free Speech Forum. And you guys can call in about it too. Because I have a couple of little observations about it that I really liked the Men's History Month Free Speech Forum last night. Check it out, thefallenstate.tv, I think it would be up on the website, and the Fallen State YouTube channel. And I shared it on the Hake Report channel, so if you go to the community posts for the Hake Report channel on YouTube, you'll see it there. Dana Williams, oops, No, don't put the last name. Dana out of New York City. First time caller. Sorry about that, Dana. Am I pronouncing your name right?
Yes, you did pronounce my name right. Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Appreciate that. Speak up for me. Or turn him up.
Yes, sir. Like I said, I'm a little bit for both sides. I'm not necessarily a liberal because there's lots of things that I don't like from liberal policies. Like I said, I'm for closed borders. I'm for legal immigration. I'm for everything that keeps America safe, and I am a genuine, true American, and I love America.
Nice.
It's just, how do we feel about this president right now? That's my main question. Is what's his rhetoric? Where does his rhetoric lead to? I mean, listen, I agree with him. Africa is a shithole country. Haiti is a shithole
Avoid
country.
cussing, man. Avoid cussing.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah.
But yes.
But
those are S-hole countries.
Correct.
S-hole this. And some Mexicans are rapists, not all. Like he said they have some flying, or they have, well, he was talking about the Charlottesville when he said there's flying people on both sides.
Yeah.
And there probably were. I mean, I don't know. There probably were flying people on both sides.
Yeah.
But I never look at anybody, Antifa or the KKK or the Aryan Brotherhood as flying people. So who is he talking about that was flying people?
Oh, you're talking about, okay, so that's your question? Okay, you asked me two questions so far. Where is his rhetoric taking us? And how do we feel about him? And that's three questions. And the very fine people. No, that's cool. So I'll answer the very fine people.
Okay.
I would have, if I were in that area and say I didn't know that Antifa was going to go, since I knew that Antifa was going to be there, or I should have known, I probably wouldn't have gone. But I would protest the removal of the Robert E. Lee monuments. I would have joined that Unite the Right protest. So I would have been one of those. Trump would probably call me a very fine person, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and there was also the militia was there, and they were not there to take a side. They were there to kind of keep the peace between both sides, and they were very fine people. I mean, they were more on the right, I guess, but they were very fine people. And I don't know if any of the, well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what kind of people the left were. The kind of people that would protest against the protesters who don't want our history removed, our historical monuments removed.
Which that's all right. And like I said, I'm not arguing anything about that. And
so
that's America. And I want to protest it against that. I want to protest it at all against that. I mean, if you want to keep the statue, keep the statue. But when it comes down to all things, lots of people in America feel that race relations are kind of better, way better since, say, 1950, 1940. Race relations got way better. But I hate when people say that racism does not exist, or when they say white privilege does not exist.
You agree with
those?
Do I
believe in white privilege 100%? No. I don't believe in white privilege 100%, but I do believe that the color of skin does get you better places in life.
Yeah, and why?
Just because of the color of the skin. Like I said, America was founded by the Europeans.
No, hey,
European country.
Let me explain why. Let me explain why the color of the skin can affect people's interpretation of how you, or risk assessment of how you are or how you might be.
I got locked up with one of my white friends not too long ago for hopping a turnstile in New York City. And what they did to me, the cops picked me on my knees, picked me in the corner, and picked me in handcuffs. And my white friend was standing up talking to cops. They didn't even put him in the handcuffs or nothing. But they secured me and subdued me and make sure I couldn't do anything. But they let him flee to talk to them while they had me in handcuffs.
Well, I don't know. Hey, Dana, I don't know how you were acting versus how your friend was acting, but people
No, I was acting just like him. Calm.
Okay, all right, fine. But I'm telling you that blacks have developed a reputation for being more out of control than whites in those types of situations with cops. And it's just reality, man. And so it's that reputation. It's not because of the color of skin. It's because the white parents have raised like docile white children, right? And docile is like a two-edged sword, because you act nice and that gets you in less trouble, but acting nice is not necessarily good, right? And then
not at all.
And then the blacks are raised more confrontational. They get it off their chest more, so that part is good. But then they also act a little, let's say, disrespectful more frequently, with it more than they should sometimes. So then, they have different cultures, and so that brings about a different type of a treatment. And there is like it gets a lot deeper than that. So there's the differences in how these people are raised is brings about a big difference, and then the reputation and all kinds of stuff. Risk assessment, man. Like they don't commit crimes at the same rates. Blacks and whites don't. And it's you can and there was somebody who called into my show trying to blame that on poverty. No, it's about how you're raised and the environment too, but whether your parents are able to protect you. And
coming from a black man, I do agree with everything you're saying, sir. I do.
And then so Trump's, but let me answer about Trump's rhetoric, how we feel about him. I love everything that Trump has been saying in terms of his quote unquote racial rhetoric, because he's working to unite the country around what's right, and he's calling out the people who are really evil, like the Democratic congresswomen of color, so-called Elijah Cummings, and Democrats in general in the media. Those people are perpetrators of evil and division in the country. But because he's doing that, there's a whole lot of brainwashed people, lemmings I would call them, or useful idiots, who are on the side of these liberal media and the Democrats and the rhinos, who will turn on Trump and they hate him and they hate his supporters. And so the country looks a lot more divided, but it's no more divided than under Obama, who helped to divide the country with lies. Trump is telling truth, and these people are telling lies.
Was Obama the worst president ever in history?
I would say so, but I haven't been around throughout history, but yeah, I would say so, but I don't know. Yeah.
Even though with some of the presidents who had somewhat, I'm not going to say that word because that word is strong, racist agendas.
Right. Yeah, because a racist agenda is, you weren't around at those times. I wasn't around at those times. Who are we to judge the situation? Yeah. Because racism is a word to describe how people behave in a common sense way most frequently. Like a country that was majority white, right? They want to keep the country majority white. They want to keep their, people of their culture coming in, right? And that was called racist by the people who enacted the 1965 Immigration Act when they started bringing in all these people of color from socialist countries.
I'm familiar with the 1965 Immigration Act.
And so the people who had the immigration prior to that was, I guess, from what I heard, it was white Christian men of good character was what we were letting into the country, right? Something like that. And that was specifically worded that way. And that was called racist, but that's not racist.
From Denmark, Switzerland, he wanted more white people.
Yeah, understandably so, because those are the people that jive more with our culture and with our civilization.
So that's another question. What is black culture and white culture?
I mean, look at the fruits of it. It kind of depends, but generally, a whole lot of black culture. I'll tell you.
I don't like basketball. I don't like rap. I don't like.
No, but I'm talking about. Hey, look. Yeah, that's fine, but a whole lot of them do. But I don't even care about basketball, and I don't care about the sports or the food. A bunch of liberals like to let in all these people claiming, "Oh, we want tacos," stupid stuff like that. But they're so shallow, it's so ridiculous, selfish, and demeaning, to be honest. But it's about, when I talk about culture, I mean, like, whites tend to be a little bit more conservative, fair-minded, believe in actual justice, and then blacks tend to fall for this brainwashing of so-called racial justice, social justice, and socialism. And socialism is basically really anti-American, anti-freedom, anti-white. And so there's that culture. And then same thing with south of the border. Those people too are anti-American, anti-white, non-Hispanic. So that's why the cultures are different. And we're bringing in all these people that are brainwashed, and then we're allowing we being the people are allowing children to become brainwashed, even native-born children, even white children are being brainwashed against their own parents because the parents are failing. But the education system, the social media, everything around is aimed towards directing people against the civilized culture of old school America, and towards this so-called progressive socialist thing. And so that's why I love what Trump's rhetoric is about, because it's kind of reminding people, hey, it's about loving the country and not hating white people, not hating cops.
And I do, and I don't hate no white person. Like I said, my best friend, and I know everybody.
No, I know, but
because everybody says, well, I got a black friend, I got a white friend.
I know. Hey,
I have a best friend who is a white person, and I love him like he's my own brother. So
that's why
there's no racist bone in my body.
That's why I'm expressing this, because there are a lot of, let's say, nicer, more conservative people of color like you and multiple other people who've called my show who didn't like the "send her back" chant. The "send her back" chant. I didn't like that neither. Yeah, because you guys don't realize that this is about there is a major hatred of white people, and they're responding to that, and there's a major hatred of America, and these people, and it's. And it's shameful, and this is kind of why the white nationalists start getting mad at all of the POCs, even the so-called conservative ones, because they tend to get offended, and then they start to question whether they want to support Trump, just because he's expressing the frustration of white people against this madness of these POCs who hate America. And then you guys, nice ones like you, supposedly love America, but then you start to question Trump over him expressing the frustration of the whites.
Well, I guess you can blame that off of, like you said, public media, because I did hear somewhere where Donald Trump has lots of civil lawsuits against banning people from his hotels and raising rent on certain colored people.
And can you blame him?
He said he never have a black man count his money.
Can you blame him for discriminating? I bet you most people in general, including the POCs, discriminate against the POC residents because they frequently end up being more trouble.
Democrats are racist too.
No, it's not racist. It's not racist. It's about the way that these different residents tend to act on a whole. They tend to mess up the situation. They more frequently will cry racism.
Yeah, but when you say they, that separates comments too. When you say
I'm telling you,
I thought we were all human.
Yes, we're all human, but the people of color have this group mindset, right? And then in that group, including you, because you believe in the racism thing. Yeah, I mean, you just mentioned it. They have this group mindset where they start to cry racism against in victimhood against the landowners who are trying to, run a business without headaches.
But that's what I'm talking about. You can't put all of us in the same.
I didn't throw all of you guys. I said tend to.
Okay. I understand. Okay.
And so that's going to happen, and then you see these lawsuits. People are crying racism all the time. I was talking to a guy who knows a cop, right? And this friend of mine, asked the cop, how often, he's a white man, right? White cop, were you called racist working in Compton or Watts or wherever he worked for 8 years? 100% of the time. And you know that 99% of the time, or 90 or whatever, those guys were guilty. They were not innocent people, but they cried racism every time.
No, I understand it, and I feel that. I think
so these civil lawsuits don't fall in.
I use Twitter a lot, so
don't fall in with it.
He had told me while I was trying to explain to him, I was like, no, I do agree with that. Lots of the black people who committed crimes are guilty of the crimes, so I don't cry foul or I don't cry foul play when that happens because it's true.
Dana,
black
man,
commit most of the crimes.
I appreciate your call. It was nice talking with you, man.
You too.
All right, take care. Happy Men's History Month, by the way. Let's see. Zack, first-time caller out of North Carolina. Sorry, guys, I got carried away with him. Kept him on a long time. Zack, out of North Carolina, how are you?
Hey, I'm good.
Hey, good.
How are you?
Right on. Fine.
So you kind of touched on what I wanted to talk about a second ago, which is I have a friend who is kind of getting brainwashed into the, accusing everyone of being a racist kind of thing. And my question is that you guys talk about how you can't convince people, but at the same time, you need to stand up and speak the truth. And if I know I can't convince this guy, but he's a friend of mine, but at the same time, I need to say something, because otherwise that illusion just keeps on spreading.
Yeah.
But at what point do I stop trying to convince him or explain why he's wrong?
Once he expresses resistance to it, I don't know. Out of curiosity, is this a black friend, a white friend, or what?
It's a white friend who went to college, but he's not the type of person that would normally think this way.
Right.
And so he said, because what he said was he was telling people not to go to this certain music venue because that venue once booked a quote-unquote racist/bigoted person.
It sounds like the college got to him, man. Yeah, just, I don't know. You can shrug it off, or just, show him that it's not a big deal. It's hard to know without seeing you guys interacting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But the one thing I'm mainly wondering is that if we don't make a habit of calling out their wrongness, then it will just keep on growing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I totally know what you mean.
So I just try to put in my 2 cents and just leave it be?
Let the Spirit lead you.
Oh, okay.
Makes sense? Because you know the situation. And so you know how, you may not know, but there's a time to speak. There's a time to be quiet. There's a time to really push it. And one thing I will say maybe is, because I've thrown away some friendships that I sensed where I was losing anyways. And I don't recommend that, because that's really an emotional beta male type of thing to do. You're frustrated with the brainwashing of the person or how dumb they are. Maybe you start to judge them, look down on them, burn the bridge for fun. I don't recommend that. I recommend just being cool. If you can do it maybe like unemotionally, then that's ideal, because you're going to, something, right? You know the reality, but then do you live completely perfect, because you may be looking down on him, and then you're guilty of the same thing, really, because you're judging him for judging some business that has nothing to do with you. It's not your fight, You can,
that's definitely true.
Yeah, just say that's silly or something, maybe. Like I said, it's hard to know. But I definitely recommend, right. Recommend, Jesse always recommends his silent prayer, because it's just kind of, maybe at that point you can have a less clouded, less emotional mindset, maybe.
You're right. Actually, I did the silent prayer yesterday for the first time, and it had a huge effect. So, I think what you said a minute ago, sometimes you need to not say anything, sometimes you need to say a little, and sometimes you need to really push it. That's very true. So it is an individual-to-individual basis. So, I'll just handle it on that.
Yeah. All right, Zach. Appreciate it, man. Good luck.
Right,
don't try to hold on to the friendship, but don't purposely sabotage it either.
Right. No, I won't get angry about it.
All right, cool.
All right, thank you.
I definitely relate, man. All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye. Skip, out of Augusta, Georgia. Skip, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing, James? Well, I ain't good, but I'm well.
Right on.
Look here. It's been a whole week.
Has it?
It has.
That blew by, huh?
Well, it flew by like the wind, like 90 going north.
So you went the whole chat you went the whole time this week, this past 7 days, in the chat, the live chat of YouTube, not referencing Jews whom you've become kind of obsessed over.
Not even hinting towards the word.
Right on. Congratulations. Did you learn anything? Did you learn anything about yourself or anything?
Well, I didn't have as much fun this week as I usually do.
Interesting.
I'm just playing, James. I'm just kidding with you. Well, I did. I guess I kind of did. I kind of saw how I was getting obsessing with it.
Okay.
Obsessing with it, you know. And even though a lot of it is just joking, but really, you know, it comes from your heart. Everything comes from your heart, don't it, James?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. There's truth in the jokes, and then there's sometimes you might have, you may have hatred that you don't realize. If you don't have, so much, like what Jesse says, if you don't have perfect love, then all you have is hate, really.
Well, I don't have any hate for for them people. You know what I mean? I don't have any. I've never had any hate for them.
Cool. That's good. Have you had any hate for anybody ever?
Yeah, in my fallen state, I had a lot of anger and a lot of hatred towards people.
Just out of curiosity, how'd you get past that? Because a lot of people, a lot of us, have grudges and all kinds of madness and frustration, and we just get annoyed at people, especially in this world. It's crazy.
A guy told me one time, James. He told me, he said, Skip. He said, most of the people that you angry at or hate for some reason don't even know that you're angry at them or hate them. It's not hurting nobody but you to have anger and hate in your heart.
Yeah.
And that made sense, you know.
It does.
And then after thinking about it a little longer, you know, most of the things that I would get angry about or whatever were small, petty things anyhow, and it was wrong.
Yeah, it's funny that the small stuff is so annoying sometimes. Yeah, and I don't totally get the message that Jesse has, that it all has its root most of the time in the parents. You talked about your parents when you first called into the show the very first time, I remember, like how your dad would drink a lot and you would bring out the beers to him, and then your mother, I forget, but did you ever deal with them?
Well, no, they both passed before I got a chance to wake up and see, you know, everything. But
yeah,
I did. And I'll tell you what I did do. I wrote a letter to them, even though they were dead, James. I wrote a letter to both of them and tell them that I forgave them, for him being an alcoholic, Mama being like she was, and we were straight dysfunctional. I mean, we were showing up dysfunctional white folks. But I wrote a letter, and I took it outside, and I read it out loud, and then I got a match and set fire to it and burned it. And it might sound stupid, James, but it brought peace to me.
All right. Nice.
Hey, can I say one more thing before we hang up?
Let me ask real fast, because Jesse jumps on this alcoholic thing, and I think it's a good question. What did your father being so-called alcoholic, because that's how we describe it in people's conversation, right? Affect you? How did that hurt you? Because you said that you had to forgive him for being an alcoholic.
Well, ever since I can remember my dad, he always drank. I mean, he woke up in the morning with a beer, went to bed with a beer, had one in his hand all the time. Yeah, at least he was working, of course, but at home he always had a beer with him. And I guess it wasn't so much the fact that Daddy drank, because he didn't really get drunk and belligerent or anything. It just it pissed my mom off so much that he drank that it would cause arguments.
Okay.
And I don't know. I really should. I don't think I have to forgive my daddy for anything because
yeah.
I really don't know, James. I don't know, but
for my dad was never. never alcoholic, to my knowledge. Like my parents never drank. Maybe a little champagne
I told
for the
Jesse
toast.
the first time I called, or the second time, I think it was the first time, but when I was a kid, like maybe 6 years old, he used to hide his beer out the truck.
Right.
His mama wouldn't let him bring it in the house.
I remember that.
So I had to go outside. He'd say, Mom, go out there and get me a beer. And I'd go out there and reach behind the seat and get him a beer. And I'd pop the cap outside because, if he popped it inside, she'd hear it. And he didn't want to hear it. So I'd pop that cap outside and I'd take me a few swallows of it before I brought it in,
Right.
And then he'd give me a swallow, I guess for doing it for him. I don't know. But I started drinking it at an early age.
Okay. I think I remember you said that you served your dad 16 beers a night one time.
No, it wasn't 16, I don't think.
Okay.
It might have been because he sure drank a lot.
Yeah, but yeah, like what you said though, that you didn't really have to forgive your dad for anything. Like, I think that Jesse has a point. When, like with my father, the stuff that I was upset with him, sometimes he would have like a little bit of temper, but it was mainly like weakness, disappointment, and then catering to my mom that I didn't like. And so it was mostly that type of stuff, interestingly enough. I appreciate that, Skip. Thank you, man.
Hey, can I say one thing?
Sure.
Yo, Adrian, we did it. I didn't
He
say
went
it
the
all
distance.
week.
All right, cool, man.
All right, thanks, man.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Let's see. Scott out of Minnesota, first-time caller. Scott, man, how are you?
I'm doing. Watch yourself.
Fine. You're coming in and out. Your phone connection's kind of bad.
Okay, let me step outside here.
All right, you're sounding better already.
How's that?
Fine. How old are you, Scott?
I'm 36 years old.
Okay, nice. What's up?
Well, I heard the caller who was talking about being diagnosed with mental illness and making jokes about dark thoughts. And when I was younger, I was diagnosed, and I believe wrongly diagnosed, and was on a lot of pharmaceuticals for about 4 years of my life, which I've been off now for about 12 or 13 years.
Yeah.
And it's not a joke. It's not something to laugh about. And I think it's a shame that so many people take on the diagnosis as their identity.
Yeah. Yep.
And that they think they have to take these drugs forever, because it really does boil down to trauma and being angry and being hateful.
Yeah, that is a good point. Like when I get mad, I noticed like my body changes, and that's like a powerful emotion that can, and fearful too, but anger more, I think, that can really mess with your body, and people don't really seem to recognize that. I don't get it. But
Absolutely.
But yeah, it drives people insane. I mean, it is insanity, really.
It does, man. It drove me insane for years.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know why it was happening, because I had always felt like that since I was small. When I was just a toddler, I was sexually abused by older cousins who were teenagers.
Dang.
And I didn't recall a memory of that event until I was 19 or 20. And all kinds of dots connected, and I was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
There's a reason I'm so sick and so angry.
Did you have both parents?
Reasons, what's that?
Did you have both parents?
I did until I was 19. My mom divorced my dad.
Oh.
Because she hated him for drinking alcohol.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Man, and when you got off the meds after, you said you were on the meds for 4 years?
Yep, for almost 5 years.
And when you got off of them, did you go cold turkey? Did you go through any like crazy spells?
I did. I tried cold turkey during that 4 or 5 year period, and it was really, really bad. And I wound back up in the hospital, and they gave me more drugs, different drugs.
Right.
I remember at one time I was on 5 different drugs at one time.
That's so insane.
Yeah, it is.
And psychology is not even a real science. Psychiatry, too.
What's that?
I said psychology and psychiatry are not even real sciences.
Absolutely. It's just a way to keep people dumbed down, and it's sad. It's really sad that so many people get caught up in that and think they're going to have it forever.
Yeah. It's kind of like the incels once they assume the role of incel, or, you know, the people who believe in their blackness or anything. They doom themselves to, they've basically pigeonholed themselves to an identity that they think they have, and it's not even a real thing.
Absolutely.
And they almost take pride in it.
Yep. Just like taking pride in being a certain color, or you know, any type of way to feel like a victim and to give that sense of pity and anger and identity instead of recognizing that it's not really who we are. Right.
You notice it with people that get injured and they want to feel sorry for themselves or mad about, frustrated with life and stuff. It's kind of indulgent. It's wrong, man.
Totally.
Wow.
Totally. I think, and it seems like a lot of it too comes from, you know, if parents are too overprotective and they'll, oh, poor little baby, and when a baby just falls and scrapes his knee, might have just stood back up and started playing again. But sometimes parents, they give so much attention to that.
Yep.
That part of a child, it just becomes part of their way of, they feel like that's part of them.
It weakens them. It brings out the worst in them. It's shameful. Man.
Totally.
So when you were on those drugs or freshly off of them or whatever, did you ever hear voices?
Absolutely, dude. When I was on them, I did. And it was bad, dude. It was scary. It was really bad. Really bad.
Without being too graphic, maybe. What did they tell you? Do you remember? Would they try to get you to do like violent stuff or sexual stuff, or just tell you crazy things about what's going on, or what?
I do remember having violent thoughts for sure when I was on pharmaceuticals, and it was something I had never had before.
Man. Yeah, that's...
And suicidal too.
That is such a shame.
Yep. But finally I got off them, man. I got lucky, and I started doing some research, and I found, actually I tried, you know, I was going to commit suicide. I was going to hang myself when I was 23 years old.
Man, what a waste.
And I had the rope in my hand and everything, and when I was walking with the rope, dude, I just remember looking down in my hand, and I thought, what is it? I didn't even know what I was holding, and all of a sudden I blacked out. And I had I flashed back to memories of swinging on a rope swing at the river and playing ball with my brother, and all these beautiful childhood memories. It was like I relived the beautiful memories in a flash.
Yeah.
And I got up and I was like, this is crazy. I've got to get off these drugs. I really have to figure this out. And it wasn't too long after that I found a book that had some insights into how bad the pharmaceuticals are and how much of a hoax the whole industry is.
Yeah.
And I super slowly got off of the pharmaceuticals without cold turkey. I mean, really carefully, really slowly, under the help of a place called Pfeiffer Treatment Center.
Whoa. That's cool, man. Thank God.
Yeah, boy, it was. You know what they told me there?
What's that?
One of the things she told me, there was a small office here in Minnesota for a while, which isn't there anymore, but their main office is in Chicago. But she said 100% of the people who came through her program that were diagnosed, I don't remember if she said with mental illness or if she just said bipolar specifically, were heavy milk drinkers and heavy dairy users.
Wow.
And I used to drink a gallon of milk, homogenized, pasteurized, cheap milk almost every day.
Dang. Interesting, man.
I used to drink that stuff like crazy, and that was one of the first things she said. She said, you got to stop dairy. You got to stop eating wheat.
Okay.
Because some people have an extreme allergic thing, and I was a fiend for it. It was like the first thing I did in the morning.
Wow.
And before bed, I just chugged milk right out of the frickin' gallon jug.
Yeah. Not to mention the spiritual stuff that you were going through, man.
Not to mention that, yep.
That's crazy, man. I appreciate this call, Scott.
Hey, thanks, James. I appreciate you talking to me and having me on your show, man. I love your guys' show, and I've forgiven my parents, and it's made such a huge difference in my life. It really is unbelievable.
I bet, man. That's cool.
It's so real, though.
Happy Men's History Month.
Happy Men's History Month, man. I'm happy to be a man today.
Thank you for the contribution. That's really good.
You're totally welcome, James.
All right, take care, Scott.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Lewis out of Austin, Texas. First-time caller. How you doing, Lewis?
I'm doing good. Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you, man.
Yeah, no problem. I've been listening to you and Jesse for at least the past year.
Yep.
I like a lot what y'all say, what y'all are doing for y'all's community down there in L.A.
Cool. Thank you.
And I've listened to a few of the callers about how they went through with their upbringing and their parents' life. I can say I think a lot of us share the same things when we have, strong-willed mothers controlling the children and the men.
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of been probably this whole nation's downfall at the moment is just having boys stay boys past the age of 20 and whatnot.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
It takes, I guess, a strong man to stand up against that because we don't really see that in the home anymore.
Yeah. And it's so crazy. People, even the grown boy men, right? Don't even recognize it. They want to say, oh, I had a lovely relationship with my mother. She was a nice woman. And by this point, I know that that's a lie. That they may not know that they're lying, but I know that that's a lie by this point because I've heard enough conversations between Jesse and these guys that say that.
Yeah.
And my own
the one
my
thing
own
good
experience.
I could say, going back to the last caller about being on medication, is when I was a kid, just about everybody in my elementary school that was a boy that was rambunctious or a little bit hard to keep down in the seat during school hours.
Yeah.
Was put on Ritalin.
It's like school wasn't even designed for us by the time we started going to school. It was designed for only the women, the girls.
Exactly.
It's crazy, man.
I could say the one good thing that my mother did do was not put me on Ritalin when just about everybody else I knew was.
That's crazy. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I hear a lot about Jesse talking about, not reading the Bible and taking it, word for word, the ink.
Yeah, he says you can read it, but don't study it. Don't try to memorize it. Don't be, crazy about it. Read it, but put it down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, when I first got, I guess what you would call, religious was after my mother died. And I kind of wanted to, instead of hearing the preacher or hearing her or the family kind of talk about it, I wanted to go through it, and I did. It took about a few months to read it from cover to end.
Wow.
And
it's pretty fast.
The only thing I would gripe about Jesse's comments like that is, in the Bible, it does tell you, the order of life, that the father is the head of the household. And, what always got me was, through the Genesis storyline, like the first 5 books of Moses, like it constantly talked like when a father passed away or was about to pass away, that you would go to him, you would have to get on one knee, place one hand underneath their thigh, and ask for a blessing, whatever it was.
That was the tradition for Isaac and Israel, something like that. I don't know. Yeah.
Yes. And, like, I think that's also, like, a thing that's kind of, like, been forgotten, too, is that we need the blessing. You know, the eldest son or whoever the father deems, like, worthy of heading up the head of the family, you know, and, like, I could say this, like, when my grandmother died, like, the whole family, like, fell apart. Like, they had no, like, initiative to take over.
Huh.
And,
interesting.
like, property was lost and everything because nobody felt the need to take up the head of the family and, you know, lead things and get things organized and whatnot.
So your grandmother was leading the family?
Huh?
Your grandmother was leading the family?
Well, yeah, I guess because when my grandfather died, you know, she was the eldest one, and
wow,
everybody kind of looked up to her as to, like, what to do, and you know what I mean?
Usually it would be the son that would take over.
Yeah, that's what I mean, and, like,
yeah.
most people, like, don't read the Bible, like, and actually understand, like, the importance of the firstborn son.
But hey, man, you actually misquoted it because, and Jesse points this out from the Bible, by the way, that the man is the head of the wife. You said he's the
household, is it not?
No, it says the man is the head of his wife as Christ is the head of the church. It says he's the head of the wife, not the household. I mean, and by extension, the household, but it specifically says his wife, and that's something that they say the household because it's more politically correct, I guess, and we don't realize that it's being politically correct, that it's tricking people into not seeing that the man is the head of the wife, which I'm sure that you agree with, right? But
yeah,
but isn't that kind of an interesting side note? But Jesse does say to read the Bible, like I just told you. He just says not to study it. I mean, maybe that's a nice tradition to bring like back the father and son or father and eldest son, but you know, he just says not to go too crazy about it. Don't get too intellectual about it because at that point you start believing in your intellect, your false intellectual understanding of the Bible rather than being led by the Spirit, the teacher within, because Jesus did say that he would send the teacher within.
The comforter, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Call that, yes.
I appreciate it. Lewis, nice call. Very good reminder, by the way. That's an interesting point about how the son didn't take over and your grandmother led and then the family fell apart after that. That is quite a lesson, man.
Sad thing.
I appreciate that. Take care, man. Happy Men's History Month.
Happy Men's History Month.
Very nice contribution. Fair warning to us all right? All right, take care.
All right, man. You have a good day.
You too. KT out of Washington, D.C. KT, man. Nice to hear from you.
Hey, what's going on, James Hake? Nice to hear from you, too. How are you?
Doing fine, thank you.
Great. Am I loud and clear?
Yep, you are.
Oh, perfect. So, I just want to piggyback off the guy that called before this other caller. Dairy is the worst thing you can ever put in your body.
Wow.
Dairy is nasty. It's filled with pus. It's filled with, it's just nasty. I used to drink a lot of dairy as well, and I would get all this my sinuses would just go and react and just go out of control.
Yeah.
And, the moment I cut it out, I've just been perfect ever since. So
right on.
Just point it out there. Dairy's a nasty thing.
Appreciate it.
And so I wanted to talk about yesterday's forum. Yesterday's forum was amazing.
Yeah.
It was great, but I just want to have to say one thing. Travis was out of control.
Yeah.
I kept messaging you in the chat to take him off. I mean, I what's the word I'm looking for? But anyway, my point is, he was out of control, and he was just cursing and interrupting people.
Yeah.
His message was good. Don't get me wrong. His message was good, but the way he was sharing his message was just not the way to go. And his message reminds me of Jared Taylor. I love Jared Taylor. I've met him 3 times, actually. I've met Jared Taylor 3 times. And I've spoken to him for about 2 hours. Both those times I met him, and the way he shares his message is just calm, collected, and you can see that he believes what he says. Yeah. But with Travis yesterday, it was just out of control.
I'm so glad that he was there to present his side, which is I agreed with a lot of what he said. Sometimes I felt that he was misjudging people. Like Trump, I don't think that he's a race traitor. I mean, I don't even believe in that type of stuff. But he's not a traitor to the white race. And he definitely was snarky and impatient and interrupting. But I loved the fact that he was there and these white guys... us angry white guys need to get it off our chests, and sometimes you just have to let the angry person act out. Then you can see where they're coming from. It was kind of a lesson there in that sense that he was most of what he was saying was right. I think. Actually, I know a lot of what he was saying was right. Most of it, maybe.
I agree.
But you are right that his anger is where he goes wrong, and he does misjudge people, like I said. But his politics are one thing that was remarkable that I wanted to make a point. The shocking, telling, foreboding thing that was said, which was totally understandable to say, but it was also bad. Brandon Tatum, the ex-cop, said that they need to red flag Travis. And... okay, looking at how he was acting, you could say that, yes, he's an angry person, right? But what he was saying, the thing about shooting the illegals on site, if that was a real thing, he's for it done legally. That's kind of edgy, I guess you could say. But he's not. He didn't make any threats. He didn't act suicidal, and yet he joked about wanting to red flag Travis. And there is a legitimate concern because he's angry, right? And angry people acting kind of out of control. Okay, but he didn't do anything illegal. He didn't make any threats. And this red flag thing for Brandon Tatum to say that, how much more is a liberal judge or doctor or whoever else, ex-girlfriend, family member, so-called friend, liberal friend, gonna try to red flag people? They're trying to red flag Trump, really. Like Jesse's debated mental health professionals, insane nuts people.
Right.
Trying to call Trump mentally ill or bad for the mental health of the country. And basically, like, where I stand is I'm glad Travis was there. I'm fine with that. He acted out. Just be patient with him. Be patient with these white guys. Yes, they're angry, but you got to let him have it out. And he's representative of a lot of white guys. And there were some really good feedback from the white guys in the audience, young guys. They brought some great, excellent. Mike from San Diego, Josh. I was so happy that Travis and those guys got it out, because that's not allowed amongst. It's only brought on the liberal media to mock and demean and say, oh, they don't have a real legitimate gripe, when they really do. So, I mean, they don't have a right to be angry, but they have a legitimate complaint. Man, KT, I appreciate that, though.
All right, James, thank you. Keep up the great work.
All right, you as well, man. Take care. Blazing Hogs out of Ohio. I'm sorry I couldn't get to you. I wanted to hear Joe Biden's quote. Supposedly Joe Biden had a funny quote today. Anyways, catch me at on the Hake Report Sunday, 9 a.m. on my channels, thehakereport.com, guys. Subscribe. And then Church with Jesse Lee Peterson on Sunday. And with that, I'll see you guys later.